To read or not to read?
Hey YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. I will be continuing on with Brandon Sanderson's recommendations today in this video clip. This will probably be my last recommendation for now by Brandon Sanderson because I think I've covered what I feel is some of his best books. He does have a new book out called Skyward, and I may be giving that a review or recommendation after I read it. Skyward has been getting some great reviews, so it may be worth looking into. So does Sanderson have other books than the ones that I've already talked about? Well, yes, of course. Are they any good? Well, some people really think so, but for the most part, I feel that they're either very much on the high fantasy side of things, like the addition that he's made to the Wheel of Time series, or somewhat of a niche oriented, like the Alcatraz Librarian series. But I do encourage you to check out all of these books, and hopefully you will find some that you like just as much as the ones that I've talked about in some of my previous videos. So in this clip, I'm going to talk about another high fantasy series by him. I highly recommend it. This series is called the Stormlight Archive. Just get rid of Skyward. So it's the Stormlight Archive. I've not done the last book in this series yet, so I can't really comment too much about that book. But the first two books in the series are excellent. Again, they are high fantasies, and they're on a high fantasy side of things. But Sanderson does such a great job for a main story or plot-driven reader like myself. So I find myself enjoying this series, even though it contains a lot of the high fantasy type writing that I usually stay away from. So if you were able to get into and you really like the Mistborn series, I really think that this one will not disappoint you either. If you're already a very high fantasy reader, then you're in for a treat with this series. So far there are 3 books in this series. I think there will be 10 altogether. The first one is called The Way of the Kings. That's a great book. Word of Radiance is a great follow-up book to this, and again the third book that I will soon be reading is called Oathbringer. There is actually a 2.5 so-called book to this as well, I think it's called Edge Dancer. But I tend not to read many 0.5 books, as I constantly get disappointed in them because I'm not a big fan of the short story. So I'm not really recommending that one. Well, I haven't read it for one thing, but I just wanted to comment on it just to say that it exists. All 3 of these books, all 3 of the archive books have 4.5 ratings out of 5 on GoodReads. And again, I'm just going to play an audio clip of The Way of the Kings to give you some idea of the style of this book.
Cal stumbled into the surgery room, the open door letting in bright white sunlight. At 10 years old, he was already showing signs that he would be tall and lanky. He'd always preferred Cal to his full name, Kaladin. The shorter name made him fit in better. Kaladin sounded like a Light-Eye's name. "I'm sorry, Father," he said. Cal's father, Liren, carefully tightened the strap around the arm of the young woman who was tied onto the narrow operating table. Her eyes were closed. Cal had missed the administration of the drug. "We will discuss your tardiness later," Liren said, securing the woman's other hand. "Close the door." Cal cringed and closed the door. The windows were dark, shutters firmly in place, and so the only light was that of the stormlight shining from a large globe filled with spheres. Each of those spheres was a brome, in total an incredible sum, that was on permanent loan from Hearthstone's landlord. Lanterns flickered, but stormlight was always true. That could save lives, Cal's father said. Cal approached the table anxious. The young woman, Sanny, had sleek black hair, not tinged with even a single strand of brown or blonde. She was 15, and her free hand was wrapped with a bloody, ragged bandage. Cal grimaced at the clumsy bandaging job. It looked like the cloth had been ripped from someone's shirt and tied in haste. Sanny's head rolled to the side and she mumbled, drugged. She wore only a white cotton shift, her safe hand exposed. Older boys in the town sniggered about the chances they'd had, or claimed to have had, at seeing girls in their shifts, but Cal didn't understand what the excitement was all about. He was worried about Sanny, though. He always worried when someone was wounded. Fortunately, the wound didn't look terrible. If it had been life-threatening, his father would have already begun working on it, using Cal's mother, Hesina, as an assistant. Liren walked to the side of the room and gathered up a few small, clear bottles. He was a short man, balding despite his relative youth. He wore his spectacles, which he called the most precious gift he'd ever been given. He rarely got them out except for surgery, as they were too valuable to risk just wearing about. What if they were scratched or broken? Hearthstone was a large town, but its remote location in northern Alethkar would make replacing the spectacles difficult. The room was kept neat, the shelves and table washed clean each morning, everything in its place. Liren said you could tell a lot about a man from how he kept his workspace. Was it sloppy or orderly? Did he respect his tools, or did he leave them casually about? The town's only fabrial clock sat here on the counter. The small device bore a single dial at the center and a glowing smokestone at its heart. It had to be infused to keep the time. Nobody else in the town cared about minutes and hours as Liren did. Cal pulled over a stool to get a better vantage. Soon he wouldn't need the stool. He was growing taller by the day.
So I hope you try some of Sanderson's work and you find them as enjoyable to read as I did. I know everyone's opinion is different when it comes to music and books and movies, but I really think that there is at least one or two Sanderson's books out there that can easily make it into your top 10 favorite fantasy books. Thanks again for visiting my channel. Thanks for your likes and your shares, and please comment down below to help me grow this channel, and so I can reach out to more people and share some great books with them. And that's it for me, and I'm out.